going to go ahead and push record. If you have someone you'd like to shout out, please unmute yourself and do that shout out right now. That way we can move forward with the call. Because I'm super, y'all, I feel like Josh Coates is just pouring into me, and I'm like excited to share what I'm getting from him. So. Okay, if there are no shout outs, then I'm going to go ahead and get started. So what I wanted to do tonight is I actually thought about sharing some of the things that I have failed through in this business, and then also take them and turn them into positives and share with you some nuggets that I've gotten from Josh Coates, because I feel like I had a one-on-one with him the other day, and I feel like he is breathing life back into me. It is like, I'm so excited and passionate and like optimistic about what we do as a team, what we do as coaches, and what our team specifically is doing, and where our heart of our business lies. And so I wanted to share with you a few things that I have done that have been total bombs. And then I wanted to share with you some ways to level up. And so I'm just going to be completely honest. Like, I know that so one of the first things I did when I started my business is I refused to wake up in the morning and push play. I was of the mindset that I was already waking up super early. I was already, like having to be to work by 7 a.m. and all this. And I just could not do the 5 a.m. wake up call. Obviously, I got myself there, but what I have learned from that, and why I consider that a failure, is because I was making and accepting the same excuse that so many of us, so many of our challengers, so many of the people that give us objections and say no, give us. They say, no, I don't have the time, or I'm already getting up too early, or this and this. So it wasn't necessarily me, like my failure was not that I wouldn't get up in the morning. My failure was that all the objections that I was receiving, I was also using. So even though I would tell people that's not really a good objection because of this, this, and this, I wasn't living it. So that's what I want you to take away from that first point, is if you are telling people that money is not an issue, that time is not an issue, that meal prep is not an issue, then you have to show them that it's not an issue for you. Because I always used to say too, oh, meal prep is easy. We have these color-coded containers and it's so easy. Well, guess who didn't use them? This girl. I would say it was easy, but then when I sat down to actually do it, it did not come easy to me. So for a while, I used that as an excuse. I was like, well, I'll push play every day, but I won't follow the meal plan because that's just too much for me. I have a family to feed, and I have this and I have that. Well, that is the same exact objection that I was getting from everybody else. Or I would say things like, well, I'm seeing results just from working out, so I don't really need to follow the meal plan. I'm at a point where I can kind of eat what I want. That's the opposite of what we want people to do. That's the opposite of what's going to make them successful. So I had to learn to stop living one way and preaching another. I had to learn to do as I say. So take that away. Another thing that I found that I failed through was being extremely inconsistent with my presence on social media. And by that, I mean, I would flip-flop a lot. I might go a day or two without posting, which is not generally a big deal if that's how you normally roll. But what I was really bad about was I would go days without posting anything of value. Maybe just a cute picture of me and the kids in Walmart, or just a picture of the kids on the swing set or something like that. And then 4 days later, I'd add some value and it wouldn't get any likes or comments on it. That was because people didn't see it coming. You have to keep your posts, your engagement up. You have to continue to add value all the time in order for people to continue to see your posts. So I want to give you some tips on how to post or what to post about. And I am literally going into the tracker that is in my Push to Elite group. I fill this out every single day. And I am literally going to take you through the tracker and tell you exactly what is on it for us. So that, and every day is a little different on this tracker. But for the most part, unless it's a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, this is the general consensus of what goes on the tracker. And one thing I really like is he tells us to focus on us first, which is what I just said with my first pointer, is make sure you're actually walking the walk, not just preaching. And I can't even say you're talking the talk, because you're not. You're just telling other people to do it. You actually have to live it. So the first thing he has us do, and you're going to want to write these down, is write down your goals every single day. And I do that by doing the Start Today journal. Then the second thing, plan out your day. I do that every day. As soon as I get to work, I open up my calendar in my planner and look and see what I've got going on that day. Usually before I leave that day, I look at the next day and make sure I know what's on my plate for the next day. Then the third thing, affirmations. Fourth thing, workout, Shakeology, follow your meal plan. All those things are you. That is your journey, your story. Now, while you're doing those things, you should also be sharing them. I don't do this every day, but often, at least once or twice a week, I'll share my goals. I'll share my affirmations. Tonight, I just went on my stories while we were listening to the song and getting ready for the call to start. I made sure to share my notebook and you ladies on the call so that people can see I have a plan. I'm not just like we're not just thrown to the wolves here. Every day, work out in Shakeology. And if I don't work out, I usually talk about why, like what happened or how I'm going to catch up later, that kind of thing. The next thing he has us do is expand our network. You can do this in a variety of ways. You can look for friends that you have in common with other people and request them. You can look for hashtags on Instagram and figure out what hashtags you should be following, and then start to do the 3-2-1 method through the hashtags. You can offer a freebie. You can ask your current customers for referrals. I mean, all sorts of ways to expand your network. The next one is a big one, and some of you are going to look at me like I'm got two heads, but 20 new conversations, y'all, every single day. When I first got in this group and I saw that I was expected to do 20 new conversations every single day, I thought, I am in over my head. I am out of my league. This is not for me. I don't know who I'm going to talk to. I don't have 20 people to talk to. Have y'all ever said that to yourself before? But I did. I had loads of excuses and fears in my head. And I can honestly say, and I said this to Josh himself the other day when I was having my call with him, I am to the point now where I have been so consistent with doing what he's telling me to do every day. I'm not having trouble at all having like 25 new conversations. I'm actually running out of room on my tracker. I've got it here so I can show it to you. I'm running out of room on my tracker for writing down the people I talk to each week. I've had to go back and like fill in blank spaces. Like every single one is filled. Yeah, haven't gotten to that week yet, but it's the more consistent you are, the more people you're going to have to talk to, and it's going to become easy. Then from there, out of those 20 new conversations, 10 challenger invitations. So maybe the conversation just goes that way. Maybe you just comment, you message them with an invitation right away based on what they liked or commented on your social media. Maybe this is a conversation with someone at work. Then from there, 5 coach invitations. And this was hard for me. This was something that I was nervous about. This is why our focus has been for the last 2 weeks, inviting to the business instead of inviting to the challenge groups, because this is where a lot of us struggle. A lot of us struggle with seeing how much this business benefits us and our families, and sharing that and inviting others to join us. Then some type of lifestyle or engagement post every single day. Notice how I say lifestyle or engagement post. Does it need to be a sweaty selfie proving that you worked out? No, it does not. It can be any sort of thing, but something to add value to people so that they know if they are looking for something or need help with something, you're the go-to guy. Then there's two options here, and I think he really would like for us to click on both of them, but I don't always get to. One is personal development audio, one is personal development reading. So he wants us doing personal development every single day in some form, preferably both forms. So be thinking about that. Think about how much you do your PD, and then think about what 2 times a day would be. Then these are your stories. And he says, write this down, 50% of your stories should be video versus picture. So it should be you talking. It should be you sharing clips of your workout. It should be, it can be something as you showing a video of your kids singing. All sorts of things. But one of those stories should be a workout story. By the way, these are minimums, okay? So at least one should be a workout. At least one should be nutrition. At least one should be a family story. Your nutrition, by the way, could be meal prep. It could be what you're eating for dinner. It could be you making your shake, any of those things. One is a family story. 2 need to be recreation stories. So what do you do for fun? Hopefully you do something fun every day. Maybe it's you in the dressing room asking, should I buy this shirt or this shirt? Maybe it's you at the soccer field playing soccer. Maybe it's you getting a snow cone. Maybe you sew. Maybe you paint. Maybe you craft. Maybe you scrapbook. Those are recreation stories. One should be a coaching story. Every single day you should talk about coaching. Your stories are where you can be. You know how we all have that fear of being salesy? Your stories are where you have permission to be a little more salesy, especially when you're giving it voice. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But when you're giving it voice, people can tell you're not just trying to make a sale. They can hear your voice. They hear your heart. One of your stories should also be some type of engagement story. This is where you're asking them a question. You're asking for feedback. You're giving them a poll, asking for popular opinion. Should I buy this light fixture or this light fixture? Should I go to Disney World or, Maine for vacation this year? Those kinds of things. And then one should be a call to action story. For a call to action story, you're asking them to opt in. Maybe you're telling them to add their name to your list for your current challenge group. Maybe you're saying, click this button and I'll send you a recipe. That's a call to action. It doesn't have to necessarily be about a challenge group. And then from there, he asks us every day, like what our numbers were for recruiting and what our numbers were for sales and that kind of thing. So I know a lot of those things are things that we don't necessarily like to talk about. We don't like numbers. They make us feel icky, or they make us feel, I'll be honest with you, I can see everybody else's numbers on this spreadsheet. And sometimes, you guys, I'm like, holy cow, I am not near where these women are. But I have worked really hard through this group to use that as a way to motivate me to work harder. Because if these other women can be at SC16 already this month, and I'm still at SC4, what makes them different than me? Nothing. They're showing up and doing the same things I'm doing every day. I see that because I see their thing. At the end of the month or at the end of the week, I can also see where I have holes in my tracker and where they did not. And then I can see what their numbers look like compared to mine. And that's huge, because where there's holes, I can work on those things. I can make it so that next week I don't have holes there. Chrissy, I saw your question pop up. Be able to share this with us. So this tracker, I'm not able to share. However, It is very similar to the tracker that I created and used with the team a couple months ago. If you remember, it was a Google spreadsheet and you would go in and add your name and then you would check things off as you went. I'm totally happy, like more than happy, to get that back up and running and add to it, because this one has a little bit more on it than that one did. But I noticed that only a couple people were using it. So that's why I kind of stopped posting that in the team page. Now, I will say that that happens in this group too, but we all invested a lot of money to be a part of this training with Josh Coates. So what he does is he actually calls us out at the end of the week if we haven't posted enough, like tracked enough. And if we don't track before the end of the night on Sunday, he actually goes in and removes us from the group, which is scary because I'm assuming there's a way to get back in because you paid money to be in, but I don't know what that looks like or how you go about doing it. So we need to figure out a way to hold ourselves accountable. If there needs to be some type of penalty attached, then we can do that. I hate to do that, but it definitely does light a fire under your butt when you think you might get kicked out of the group. So there's that. So a couple other things that he and I talked about that reminded me of some of the things that I used to like really allow to get in my head, especially in the beginning of my business. One thing I really struggled with in the beginning was anytime someone signed up with me and then they quit. And I don't just mean like someone signing up to work the business and then quitting, because that bothered me a lot. But I also mean like those challengers that go silent, or those ones that all of a sudden you see that they canceled their discount coach membership, or you go in to check on them and you notice they're not even in your challenge group anymore. They've removed themselves. I used to take that so personally, and that was something I had to fail through, because y'all, it's just like us. We give them all the tools to be successful, and we check in and we try to make things fun and engaging, and we do all these things. And if they don't show up for themselves, it's not on us. We're all adults here. So one of the things that you really need to remember is, who did you start your business for? Who did, like, when you signed up for Beachbody, were you signing up for all those people, or were you signing up for some other reason? Because that was really eye-opening to me, because I was telling him how he knows a little bit about my story from the past year. And I was telling him that one of my biggest fears right now is that I wasn't gone. I didn't necessarily go behind the scenes, but I definitely went from doing above and beyond to doing just the vital behaviors bare minimum to keep my business afloat. And my fear was really that I had let people down, and so they had kind of also just gone bare minimum or even disappeared. And that now that I'm excited and ready and fired up again, it's my job to kind of rally the troops. And that's a fear. I'm worried that some people are going to be like, oh, Lindsay, nice to see you. It's been a couple months. Don't really feel like doing this with you anymore because you let me down, kind of thing. And he said to me, he was like, so let me ask you, when you started this business, who did you start it for? I can tell you, when I started this business, it was A, for me, because I was in a place where I just was not happy with myself. But B, for my son, because it was after we'd gone through that horrible daycare experience, and I was determined not to have to go to work anymore. So all these other people that have opinions or are looking at what I'm posting on social media and saying, oh, Lindsay's kind of obsessed, right? Or all these people who are like, well, where'd she go for the last 6 months? Like, not being compassionate or having any empathy for what I've been going through. Those aren't the people I started for. So if they're not going to be like good people and stick by me, that's okay, because they're not the ones that I originally started this journey for. And you need to remember that too. I am certain, if you can raise your hand and tell me that no one has ever had anything negative to say to you about this business or you posting on social media, then you must be surrounded by saints, because I feel pretty confident that every single person on our team at some point has had someone say something negative to them. Maybe even your own parent. Guys, my mom asked me the other day about this Josh Coates group, and I was like, I invested a lot of money in my business and blah, blah, blah. And she was like, how much was it? And I was like, I don't want to tell you. And she was like, why? I said, because I don't want you to laugh at me. Isn't that awful? Like, that's my mom. And I mean, I don't think she would laugh at me, but people don't always get it. Like, this is something we are passionate about. We chose to do this. We are building a business, and not everybody gets that. Even if they love us, they might not get what we're doing. And that sucks that I was afraid to tell her that. Like, that brings me up to the next point that he and I talked about. We are often afraid of what the wrong people think. We are often afraid of what the wrong people think. I started this business for me and my children. The only people that I should be worried about what they think about my business is me and my children, because that's who I started it for. So why am I upset about what my mom thinks about my investment? Like, I even found myself saying to her, well, it'll be a tax write-off and I'll make my money back, in the first month, and blah. Like, I was totally trying to justify it. And she finally was like, Lindsay, I'm okay. Like, I think it's great that you made an investment in your business. Like, she was like, I'm not judging you, but I was totally expecting to be judged. No idea why, but I was. But we know what fear feels like. We know what that feels like. Like, we know what it's like to be fearful of sending an invitation to this business. We know what it's like when someone says, so what do you do anyway? I see your posts on social media. Anybody else, like, their heart skip a beat when someone asks you that at work? Like, when they say, so what is that thing that you post about all the time? I'm like, I don't know what to say, because like this fear comes in. And that is such a place of comfort for us. Doesn't necessarily mean we like it there. Doesn't necessarily mean like we want to be there and it's enjoyable or pleasant, but it's comfortable because it's what we are used to. But we have to portray this message to people, not just about our business, but also about this lifestyle that we lead, that change is actually less of a sacrifice than staying. Let that sink in for a second. I think a lot of times we're so stuck in our comfort zones. Like, I'm only going to invite 3 people today because that's my comfort zone. I am not going to push myself to invite 10 because that's freaking scary and I don't know 10 people to invite. And if I invite 10 people today, who the hell am I going to invite tomorrow? Anybody ever said that to yourself? Like, I can't send one more challenge pack invoice this month. I'm already at SC6. And if I send another one, then next month I might not get any Success Club points. Like, that is such a comfort zone. That's such a place of fear. And we have to realize that choosing to do the thing that forces us to step outside the comfort zone, choosing to do the thing that is change or that is different, is actually less of a sacrifice. We are giving up so much more when we stay comfortable than if we actually do the different thing. You have to be willing to change. Change is scary. Change is scary to the people we're talking to every day. But look at what we have gained. Look at what we have stopped sacrificing. Yes, maybe I don't stay up or spend Sunday afternoons watching tons of TV and laying on my couch for hours on end. Maybe instead I'm meal prepping and I'm pushing play on my workout even though it's a Sunday, and I'm spending 30 minutes on this phone call with you. Well, let me tell you what I've gained from all that, guys. I mean, I don't have chaotic mornings where I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to throw in my lunchbox. That used to be like every single day. Like, there were some mornings I was putting peanut butter on bread and walking out the door with a peanut butter sandwich for my breakfast or for my lunch. There are days where I skipped breakfast altogether and hit up the vending machine on my planning period because I was starving, because I didn't take the time to make the shake in the morning or spend the money on the shake. Pushing play. Well, I'm healthier and more energetic and more fit than I've ever been in my entire life. Am I a size 0? No, probably never going to be. But I'm more fit and healthy than I've ever been in my life. So I'm not sacrificing. The time that I'm spending on this call more than pays for itself in my monthly income with this business. So people think that I'm sacrificing because I'm choosing to do life differently, but I'm not. I'm actually giving up a lot more if I just stay comfortable. If I just, what's that saying? Like doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting different outcome is insanity. That's what so many people are living, but not us. Um, so he also went on, because one of the things I told him I really had to fail through this year was not being on my A game. I had so many other things going on in my life, in my head and in my body, that I couldn't be on my A game in every single aspect. Now, did that mean I just like balled up in a corner and decided to take a break for a couple months? No, I was really transparent about it. And I just realized sometimes we're in a place where we can't bring our A game. So you know what we do? We bring our B game, maybe our C game, maybe even our D game. But we don't stop showing up. So this is the point I want you to take away from this. This was a failure that I used to have when I first started my business. If I couldn't be perfect, then I just couldn't be a coach. That was what was in my head. Y'all, I'm still not perfect. I'm not going to be perfect every day. That's just not who I am. Now, there are people like Jillian Michaels and Jericho and Autumn who are going to be perfect every day at what they do. And we love them and we follow them for those reasons. But the people who follow us, love us, and follow us for the very reason I just said. We're not perfect, but we're still showing up, even if we're bringing our D game. We're not going to be able to bring our A game every single day. But he made a comment that at this point, even though I didn't bring my A game for several months, maybe maybe now I can bring out Lindsay 2.0, or maybe I can bring out even Lindsay 3.0. Maybe we can use what we have gone through so much that we not only just do better, but we like explode out the gates and become like the baddest version of ourselves that we never even knew we had inside us. Now, because we didn't have our A game, because we struggle, because we're not perfect, we have more wisdom and more resources to use. Think about the things that you have in your backpack or your toolbox or whatever you want to call it, your little filing cabinet inside your heart. Think about the things that you have in there and how they make you a better, like, how can you use those things to add value to other people? And this is the last thing I'm going to share for tonight, because I realize we're getting close to the end of the night, or the end of the call. But that's one of the things I said to him. I was like, who am I to go live on Facebook or on Instagram and share something with people? Like, what do I share? And he was like, well, Lindsay, do you consider yourself a good writer? And I said, yeah, I think my posts are good. That you generally get a lot of engagement. I feel like I am adding value to people when I share them. He said, so the next time you write up a post, instead of hitting publish, I want you to use that post as notes to go live. And he said, think about all those things that you learned while you were on your D game or C game or B game. And think about how those things have impacted you, how they have made you wiser and more resourceful, and how you've been willing to accept the change and you realize you are no longer sacrificing by doing the different thing. And think about how you can use those things to add value. He said, instead of writing the post and pushing publish, make it live and give it a voice. Because when you give it your voice, it's so much more impactful. If you feel like you are a better writer than going live, then write it down. Nobody says you can't do that. The last thing he said was he tried to help me brainstorm some things that I could share. So I'm going to share one of them or two of them with you that we came up with, so that maybe it can help you to come up with some things too. But he said going live is super important. So I do want to challenge you to go live at least once this week. This is not something that comes natural to me. I'm a very good public speaker. I speak in front of 14-year-olds who will let me know if I'm not a good speaker every day. Teaching middle school is not easy. So going live on Facebook where nobody can really even look at me funny, that shouldn't be hard for me, but for some reason it is. If writing is not your strong point, Amy, I think that's valid. If talking is your strong point, then don't bother writing it down first. I'll tell you honestly, a lot of times for our team call, I just write down a couple bullet points, but everything I say is just me talking because that's the way I lesson plan too. I just write down a couple things that I know I have to touch on, and I write down the objectives that have to be met in that lesson, and then I go on my own. I go like rogue style with teaching. But if writing's not your strong point, feel free to write it up and then post it in our team page and ask for advice. That's what the team page is for. Get feedback. There are people in our team page who are amazing writers. Again, you don't want it to be super duper long. You don't want it to be like a novella because then people are going to stop reading. But he said to me, going live is so important because people need to know you in order to like you. And in order to trust you, they have to like you. So they have to know you, and then in order to like you, and then they have to like you in order to trust you. And in order to work with you, they have to trust you. And that really spoke to me because I believe that. I believe hearing someone's voice, seeing their facial expressions, and hearing the passion that comes out of them when they're sharing something helps you to get to know them, like them, and trust them 10 times faster than following them on social media. Chalene Johnson got me not from her cute little pictures with her headphones on Instagram, but from her podcasts and from her videos and her IGTV. That's how she got me. So some of the things that he gave me as tips were to start with a quote. He said a lot of times whatever he's reading for his personal development, he takes a quote from it, he shares the quote, and then from there he shares like what his takeaway was or what he's feeling about it, excuse me, or how he's applying it to his life or his business or his relationship or what have you. Then he said to me, so you've been through a tough time. He said, how about the next time you go live, you share 3 tips on how to stay motivated during a tough time. He said, narrow it down because sometimes we can get on live and we can just keep talking. And it goes minutes and minutes and minutes. And people stop listening after 2 or 3 minutes on a live video. But make sure that you say, I'm going to give you 3 tips or 2 tips, or maybe tonight you made, I don't know, maybe you meal prepped tonight. Go live and share 2 things that you do every Sunday in order to make your Monday morning less crazy and painful. That kind of stuff. Think about little ways things that we do, I think, kind of automatically, so we don't always realize we're adding value. Those are the things you can use to add value. But one of my biggest takeaways from our call was you have value to add regardless of whether you're on your A game or your D game. Going through shit is not going to hurt your business. It's going to make you wiser and give you more resources to use to enhance your business. And going live is simply taking that post that you have written and giving it a voice instead of just posting it and letting people give it their own voice. That's all I want to share because I don't want to keep going. But guys, as he's just breathing life into me, and as he keeps sharing things, I'm going to keep sharing them with you. I do want to leave you with this. I do want more people stepping up in our team page, sharing things. When you listen to a podcast, Christy does a really good job of this. She'll listen to a podcast and she'll share it in the team page. Y'all, the people that you see as successful are not successful because they're not you. They're successful because of the things they do. So when Christy says, I just listened to this podcast and I got a lot out of it, and then you see that she's got like 3,000 plus volume on our leaderboard at the end of the month, duh, it's a connection. She's got that volume because of what she's doing. Look at what she's doing and try to emulate that. I mean, I do the same thing. I'm halfway through the podcast that she shared with us the other day. Haven't shared my takeaway on it yet because I'm not done, but I plan to share it. And I listen to my podcasts while I'm grading papers or copying papers or whatever I need to be doing in my classroom on Monday morning while I'm on my planning period. I've got that playing because I can easily staple packets together or photocopy papers while I'm listening. So stop making excuses and start making time. All right. If there's no other questions and you still love me, I'll let you go on that one. I love you guys. Have a great week.